with gas prices continuing to stay very high, putting a real burden on the ordinary American, you would think that the Biden administration would be taking measures across the board to deal with this problem. Now, true, Biden did go to Saudi Arabia, but it doesn't look like that went all that well. The Saudis appear to have been respectful, but essentially dismissive. And clearly there was nothing concrete coming out of that. And think about, you made the point about at one time these pilgrimages to Saudi Arabia were perhaps necessary. We were reliant on Saudi oil. We really no longer are.
We shouldn't be reliant on anybody's oil. Saudis, Iran's, Russia's, Venezuela. We OPEC, we have our own. And it's really kind of a shame that not only is Biden demonizing the oil we have, but the oil producers. And he's just going all out on just the attack on the fossil fuel industry is just, it reminds me of Hugo Chavez and what he did,
most Americans drive cars and they use gasoline and they use fossil fuels. By the way, it's a big illusion to think that somehow these prominent liberals don't. They have their own yachts. Yeah. They have their own private airplanes. They obviously use fossil fuel vehicles. So think of someone like John Kerry, who basically travels in a private jet around the world lecturing people about the evils of fossil fuels. There's something that's just offensive at so many levels. It goes beyond just simple hypocrisy. It's
that he gets a pass because he's who he is. He's a liberal. He gets a pass. Yeah. Like, all these people do.
Now, it looks like let's talk about Buttigieg here, because it appears like the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, is in some way happy about this gas crisis. He doesn't put it that way. But what he does say is, you know what, this is going to move people more toward electric cars. Mm-hmm. And so for the Biden administration and for Buttigieg in particular, it appears like this is a kind of an opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
And their implication is that electric cars are cheaper than fossil fuels. Why? Because you don't need to pay for gas. Yeah. You can just plug in your electric car and it's going to save you money. But that's really not an accurate picture, is it?
Oh, it's not. But here's another thing. So Representative Thomas Massie, he's a Republican from Kentucky. He basically said, what about charging all these vehicles? What would it do to the country's electric grid, right? And so what's his name? Buttigieg acknowledged that it would be problematic, but he says, well, we have to give the grid some upgrades. So he's actually saying, yes, it would be a problem on the grid. I don't know when we're going to do that, when we're going to do upgrades on the grid. But
we know from Texas that the grid can and does fail.
2 years ago, when we had that really cold freeze here in the Houston area and actually all of Texas, we had an outage for like several days. And what would have happened if we had had an electric car? Of course, we wouldn't have been able to go anywhere. That's just the thing, is that they're not even looking at things like that could happen with all these weather disasters that they're calling,
Well, you told me also that in Texas we get hit with hurricanes and we're not the only ones, of course.
Yeah, we get hit with hurricanes more often than the cold, of course. And that would be a problem because we would lose electricity. We wouldn't be able to go anywhere. But see, that's not even the half of it. What they're not telling you is that having an electric car is very expensive. So
I looked up yesterday. Basically, it is true that to charge your electric car, at least this is if you go with the government's estimates, costs about $55 to $60 a month. So it's not free. It's not as if you can charge your electric car for nothing. You don't pay for gas, but your electric bill goes up. Now, the real point is that the cost of an electric car is substantially higher than that of a normal car.
Right now, only the wealthier Americans can afford an electric car. Let's face it.
Right.
And what they're suggesting is that they're going to give people vouchers so that they can all buy an electric car. And I think they think that the money grows on trees.
Right. Where would you pay? Where would you get the money from to pay the deficit between an ordinary car and an electric car? I mean, look, if the liberals want to create a pot of money and go to their own billionaires and collect money from all of them, take about 30 billion from Warren Buffett, take about 30 billion from Jeff Bezos. They can afford it.
Aren't they always willing to give more?
They're always saying they want to pay more. And my point is, show up at their door and collect more. Then create a fund, a private fund that's funded by the left, because this is their priorities. Why should we pay for their priorities?
It's their project.
It's their project. So then they say, listen, this is actually wonderful. We're going to bring down the cost of electric cars through our own privately funded subsidies. And then you're not going to want to drive any other kind of a car. You're going to want an electric car. So let's see if they can reshape the market.
Yeah. But they always want to go, they
never go that way.
They never do. And they always want to kill one thing to do another thing. It's like, hey, if you want to have an electric car, have one, right? But let me choose, right? Don't they like choice? Isn't that what they advocate? So
my car, my choice.
Great.